résultat. Bien joué, c'est joué pour gagner. Bien joué, bien joué. Et pour pas de résultat. Bien joué, faut jouer fermé. Bien joué, bien joué. Et pour la victoire.
Good morning. Today we have, for those of you who are in Rockland County, good morning. For those of you who are watching on YouTube, good evening. Today we have a special guest, a young and intelligent man that most of you know already. And we're going to talk to him to see what he brings for us. Chris Day, as you know, is a young man. He was born and raised in New City. After graduating from Clarkstown North High School, Chris spent 2 years at Sunny Rockland Community College and voluntary time and student government and other various service-related activities. After graduating, he transferred to Yale University, where he completed his BA in political science, the first in his family to earn a 4-year degree. While at Yale, Chris was active in the Yale Political Union, helped organize the Army ROTC company for the Southern Tier of Connecticut. This morning, I'm very pleased to introduce you to Chris Day. Good morning, Mr. Day.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Yes. My show normally in English and Haitian Creole. Anytime we speak, we have to have some time for me to translate in Creole for those who don't speak English. You know?
Not a problem.
Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Well, like you said, I grew up in Rockland County. After I went to RCC, I transferred to Yale, and I spent 4 years in the U.S. Army. I served a year in Afghanistan and 2 months in Iraq. I was a platoon leader, so I was in charge of about 30 folks overseas. I saw combat. I earned 17 awards and decorations, including the Bronze Star. I was an airborne ranger in the 82nd Airborne Division. I got out as a captain. My final job was as senior logistics officer, so I was in charge of budgets, in charge of controlling equipment and supplies. After that, I got on 2011. I got my MBA from Columbia Business School, and now I work at as vice president at an investment firm down in Manhattan. Last year, I also managed in my free time the county executive race for my father, Ed Day, which we won in November. And I have a son, a 5-year-old son, who's in kindergarten this year, CJ. And I'm married to my wife, Jennifer, and we live down in Orangetown now. And I've been running for this race since March. I've been working hard, and I decided to run because I feel like that our country and our county are facing a series of challenges that are not being addressed. Large issues aren't being taken care of, and if we don't address them, my son and all of our children are not going to have the same opportunities in America that we all had, and I decided to take on the burden and step forward and run the race.
Okay, nice. Pour moun ki pa kon parler anglais yo, Chris Day était fait élevé New City. L'el fin gradué dans Clarkstown High School, il était allé dans Yale University, côté il était gagné un bachelor, il gradué avec un bachelor degré. Après ça, il allé dans Columbia University, côté il fait un MBA qui veut dire Master of Business Administration. Actuellement, il vit à Orangeburg, il a un petit monde qui a 5 ans et puis il est marié avec madame Nikki Jane et puis il vit à Orangeburg. So tell us what influenced you, what take you to where you are now? Like you have the desire to be a congressman. Tell them what is a congressman? What is your role as a congressman?
Well, you know, a congressman has 2 different jobs, really. One is to go down to Washington, D.C. and represent the interests of the area in terms of formatting law and talking about policy for the entire country. So federal law, what decisions the federal government's going to make, that's what your input is. There's also another component, though, and that's constituent services here at home, which is making sure that people who live in the 17th District, which is, just so everyone is clear, is all of Rockland County, and Westchester from White Plains north to Peekskill, making sure that they have as much help navigating the waters of anything that they want to do through your office, whether it's working with local governments, working with Small Business Administration, working with the state government. Your job is to help your constituents get things done and navigate the red tape that surrounds us in government. Mm-hmm. So you have to get the laws passed and represent the district that way, and you also have to help people get things done in their lives.
Ok. Mr. Day dit comme ça, s'il allait pour congressman, alors c'est pour position le pralia qui il va aller pour congrès, il y a deux constituants, il y a deux parts là-dedans. En premier part, la prêté ici, et puis en deuxième part, il va aller Washington, il y a une loi pour voter, pour le capable aider Mounio à faire causer loi. So, quand là, on va parler de nous-mêmes haïtiens, c'est le monter en tant que républicain, qui ça l'a fait pour nous. Et puis, après ça, on va email moi pour nous une question si toutefois nous t'avons pour me retourner avec encore. I just told them that after the show I will have to give them my email. They can forward me some questions in case if they have questions,
Sure.
or I can forward to you.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So tell us what is the difference between a Democrat and a Republican? Because for some people they don't really have or they don't really know the difference between a Democrat and a Republican. Can you tell us a little bit?
Sure. Well, there's a lot of differences depending on the person. So each person choose to be in a political party based generally on who you tend to agree with, but you see within each party a lot of extreme differences of opinion. It's just that, for me, I'm a Republican because I believe in individual freedoms. I believe in that smaller government is a better government for the people and can get things done better as opposed to a larger government. And I believe in making sure that the private sector is able to give people those good jobs and people are able to lift themselves up by having pro-growth policies in place. There are other Republicans who believe different things. They might focus on other issues that personally I don't really delve into. Democrats, generally speaking, tend to believe in a larger government system. They tend to believe in necessarily passing more laws and expanding the bureaucratic state. I don't want to characterize it. There's people who believe different things again on both sides, but in the end, for me in this race, I could speak to this race, speak to me and my opponent. In my case, it's someone who's trying to provide independent solutions to get things done in a way that involves the smallest amount of government necessary. And my opponent seems to be a little bit more in the partisan side of things and get things done exactly how the Democrat Party might want it, which often includes a larger government to try to get the things done.
Ok. L'étape de différence entre démocrate et républicain, c'est républicain, il dit mais opinion parlée, il croit dans small gouvernement parce que mon démocrate le plus souvent il a besoin de bagaille plus grandiose, mais pour lui il choisit pour le faire pour les républicains parce que il est dans scope parler. If you are elected as a congressman, so tell us a little bit. What do you have a plan?
I have a few plans, actually. The biggest issue that we're all facing is our economy because it drives so many other issues. Getting jobs back into this country, quality paying jobs. Our taxes that are way too high are often high because the economy is not growing, and then the taxes become bigger as a percentage of the economy because they have to take a slice of the pie. They take a bigger and bigger slice of it. But we need to make that pie get bigger. And one of the ways we need to do that is I have a plan, for example, to attract financial sector firms into Rockland and Westchester counties. They currently tend to be in Connecticut and in New York City. But our area, compared to those areas, is less expensive and has many of the similar amenities. So I plan on directly recruiting these firms to move, and by having their money be in this district, they'll be able to spend, and then when they spend, our Main Street businesses hire more, they get more revenue, and it revitalizes our downtowns. That's a specific step. And then there's stuff, again, like it's a two-tiered thing, what you're doing locally as a congressperson and what you want to do nationally. So we have to look at simplifying the tax code. We have to look at making sure that we have protections that jobs aren't getting shipped to low-wage countries at the expense of people living here in this country.
Okay. You are so young, and for your like a young man, like well-educated, who influenced you? Between your grandfather or your father, which one?
My dad obviously, was an inspiration as a child, and he did. He was a police officer for 21 years or so, and he set a table of service to your community, and both me and my brother carry that service on by service in the military. Okay. And what you learn in the military, and there's a lot of people, commanding officers and sergeants who inspired me in my military service, is that. There's a way to do things that can get things done, and you have to be willing to put yourself out there and take the chance, and you also have to put others ahead of yourself. The combined experience there with the police father and the military experience has kind of driven me to the point where it's my opinion that if I see things that need to get fixed and I have the ability to try to fix it, it's my responsibility to step forward and say, I'll take care of it and I'll do it. It's not something that would be right of me to not step forward, though I have a job in the private sector, and though everything's going fine other than that, I just want to step up and try to get things fixed.
Okay, good. You were a commissioner as a lieutenant in the U.S. Army Infantry, and you were living in Georgia. Were Georgia in America, or?
Yeah, when I was first commissioned as a lieutenant, I went down to Georgia for my training, where I was trained as an infantry officer. I went to Ranger School and to airborne schools, so jumping out of planes and learning how to do all the stuff in the woods that the Army has to do. And when I finished that, I went to Fort Bragg, North Carolina. And that's where I was stationed with my unit, where I ended up deploying to Iraq and Afghanistan while I was stationed in North Carolina.
That's nice. So now we will talk about Tappan Zee Bridge. What do you think about the bridge?
Sure. You know, the thing is with the Tappan Zee Bridge is the current span, the old one, it was built in the early 50s at the direction of the federal government. By the federal government. They said, we want to put the bridge there, they put it there. And they built it to a standard that meant that it wouldn't last as long as bridges like the George Washington or the Brooklyn Bridge. Those things are built to last, even the Bear Mountain. So now we saw it coming that it would have to be replaced. Unfortunately, the federal government who built this bridge, and my opponent, was unable to secure any federal grants, so any dollars from the federal government to pay for this bridge. She secured a loan, and now the loan is something that has to be repaid. The only way you can repay a $1.6 billion loan, and the total cost of construction is more like $4 billion, if not more than that, is by increased tolls. And the governor and Congresswoman Lowy have not released any details of the plan to pay for the bridge. Now, I have trouble believing that there was no plan put forward, because a loan was approved. If I wanted to get a line of credit at the bank, I'd have to put in information about my income and everything like that. It works the same way for the federal government. So she says that she doesn't know what the plan to pay for it is. Either she's not aware of the application process, or she is aware that it's going to call for increased tolls. And there's talk of them being $15 from the current $5. The problem with that is that it's going to shut down Rockland's economy and negatively impact Westchester's as well, but particularly the Palisades Mall and everything else on this side of the river. If someone's making a choice between going to White Plains or going to the Palisades Mall, they're going to choose White Plains if they're on that side of the bridge. And likewise for Westchester, if someone was thinking going to Westchester instead of New Jersey, they're going to stay in Jersey. It will completely shut everything. There's no mass transportation that's being proposed on the bridge. And it's a failure, because this is the largest infrastructure project in this district in its history, and currently the largest one going on in America. And for there not to be one single dollar of federal grants applied to it is a failure of our representative. When elected, I intend to work with the majority, and Republicans are in charge of the House of Representatives, and they will be for the foreseeable future, to get funding for this bridge and make sure that we're not left with the bill. The commuters of Rockland and Westchester counties aren't footing the bill for a bridge that basically is a federal project that connects Connecticut to New Jersey through New York, and one of the most important projects in the last 50 years.
Okay, good. So now, if you are elected, you will be working in East Ramapo with people from East Ramapo. Do you know about the problem in East Ramapo?
Yeah, you know, I'm proud to, one, have the endorsement of Preserve Ramapo, and two, to have been there on the ground with the parents of East Ramapo. I've been to protests. I've been working with the public school parents and hearing their concerns. And the fact is that this district has gone from one of the top ones in New York State to a failing school district. It's just not something that can be allowed to continue, and it requires advocacy. It requires being aware of the situation and pushing for reform. That's what I intend to do and continue doing. And it's not just East Ramapo School District, it's also things going on within Ramapo itself. You know, you see that the government, not many town governments in our state or in the country even, have been raided by the FBI. There's a lack of true law application in Ramapo. The recent results of the Ward referendum, which I endorsed a yes vote on the Ward vote, my opponent didn't even weigh in on, and the last time we spoke seemed to be unclear as the difference between the Ward and the East Ramapo situation. The fact that they had to throw out the results of that in court because it was so mismanaged. This is an issue that, you know, being an elected congressman, one of the top positions in the area, you have a responsibility to advocate and to push things and to throw your weight around a little bit. Yes. And this is an issue I intend to throw my weight around a bit to make sure that the people of Spring Valley and of Ramapo at large are not being abused and their kids get a fair education, because we all deserve an equal start and an equal opportunity to succeed in life. And that's what's being denied right now, the kids over there.
Okay. We will take a short break and we'll be back.
C'est où seulement connaît, ça me sacrifié pour nous. Tout le monde a critiqué, même famille m'y arrivé. Relation à long terme, projet à court terme. Seul ça qu'a bien, c'est confiance moi maintenant l'amour. Et toujours, moi peur, moi découragé. C'est comme si ma vie marchait tout seul, là y'en pas sans issue. L'amour ne se fait pas, l'amour c'est ça qu'on dit. C'est seul espoir moi gagner, c'est l'âme plus c'est force pour continuer. Moi refuser d'accord avec l'opinion publique qui dit que de nos jours compromis remplacer l'amour. Quotidien pas facile, aimer c'est prendre un risque. Vous voulez dire quoi pour moi, seul choix c'est aller jusqu'au bout. Et toujours, moi peur, moi découragé. C'est comme si ma vie marchait tout seul, n'ayant pas sans issue. L'amour ne se fait pas, l'amour c'est ça you dit. C'est seul espoir me gagner, c'est l'âme plus efforce pour continuer. Plus anxiété m'a fait grandir, c'est plus ou important pour moi, plus moi j'ai à perdu. Moi pas baisser les bras, décider aller jusqu'au bout, ou si nous pas réussi, pour moi pas dire oui. C'est où qu'on est. Plus anxiété m'a fait grandir, c'est plus ou important pour moi, plus moi j'ai à perdu. Moi pas baisser les bras, décider aller jusqu'au bout, ou si nous pas réussi, pour moi pas dire wadi. Yeah, yeah. C'était le peu de sang qu'a pour moi. Y'aurait les m'égarer, on méritait bien plus que ça. Moi pas dit le contraire, mais c'est ça qui fait content. Nous mettre passé longtemps, nous mettre passé des heures. Nous pas qu'à comprendre parce que circonstances sont nous pas même. Nous mettre passé années, nous mettre passé des ans. Nous pas qu'à comprendre parce que circonstances sont nous pas même. J'aimerais orgueilleux, moi pas penser c'était possible. Ou pas moi
with Mr. Day. You know, Chris Day is Christopher Day. He's the son of Mr. Ed Day, right? I think all of you know. I keep asking questions in English, but now I'm trying to see if I can translate in Creole for those of you who don't speak English. As you know, I always do my best to see if I can have the show, a bilingual show. Chris Day, comme nous connaissons, il fait dire tout à l'heure, il fait New City, il fait il grandi, papa c'est Ed Day, la courir là pour venir en congressman, il prend il gagne opponent qui est Mrs. Law, so living avec différents projets pour taper des bridge et il va parler further de il parle de East Ramapo, de quel changement il veut porter dans East Ramapo, de tout problème qui gagne. So konya là, on va poser l'autre question d'économie et job et nous-mêmes qui jeunes et puis nous-mêmes haïtiens qui dans la communauté là, là yo vini yo dit faire mais le fait monter qui ça le café qui ça le café pour communauté haïtienne. I just translate to tell them that you have some plan for the community. So now, how do you think that you could help the Haitian community?
Sure, you know, I think that the Haitian community is a couple of things that they matter to everyone, but I think it's also extremely important to you guys. It's the job situation and getting the economy going and getting high quality jobs into the area and making sure people are paid fairly for them. You know, it's not enough just to say we need to raise the minimum wage. We also need to get better jobs and high-paying jobs. You shouldn't have to live off the minimum wage. You should have a better job, and there should be available for people to get. And one of my proposals is to make sure that we reform the way that the corporate tax code works so that small businesses and those in the Haitian community will benefit greatly, will have a corporate tax cut and they won't be paying as much in taxes. But also so that when we adjust and simplify the corporate tax code, we include a provision that companies, if they want to take advantage of this simplified lower tax rate, have to pay their people more money. So they have to pass on some of that savings to the employees so that people aren't working and also still being on food stamps or getting paid minimum wage and below standard of living. If the company wants to save that money on taxes, they're going to have to abide by a simple ratio of their profits to their employee salaries. And if they make it a certain way, they'll be able to get the lower rate and people will get paid more. They get pulled off of government assistance programs and be able to earn a livable wage too. And it still allows that free marketability for companies to do what they want freely without having the side effect of the government getting bigger and bigger and trying to tell them what to do. The other issue that I think the Haitian community is very interested in is the immigration one. You know, when I was at Columbia, it was a very large international student population, and all of those folks, they came here on educational visas. And in the last semester, they were all worried about whether their employer will sponsor them for a work visa. Otherwise, they have to go back to the country that they respectively came from. That, I think, is crazy. Our legal immigration system is broken just as much as the illegal immigration side of things is. We need to have a more streamlined process for getting folks in this country. If we're educating someone, we shouldn't be sending them back overseas with an education. We should want someone who's come here to earn a degree to stay here. And we should make sure that the process is simple. And that helps when we do secure the borders and we do secure the ports and take away some of the suffering going on from people getting to this country illegally, because they're often abused by people trying to take advantage of them, by making sure that they have a safe and legal route to get in. And meanwhile, we know exactly who's coming in, and we're able to make sure that they're properly taken care of and that we're all safe in this country for that. We need to make sure that once we've done those things, the folks who are here are able to get legal status, get in line behind the people that got here legally, so that they can start paying taxes and become a part of society. We don't want to have a two-tiered society where people aren't necessarily in it and a full part of it. You know, that's some of the things that the Haitian community I know about in speaking with folks within the community have been concerned about. Another issue is housing. I think that, and low to mid-income housing. I think we need to make sure that every area of this county is open to every people of all colors. And I think there are some spots in Ramapo particularly where it's impossible for a minority to own a home or to purchase a home. And that's something that needs to be investigated and dealt with. The laws are there. They're just not being enforced properly. And we need to change that. We need to have someone who's going to say, you should be able to, if you have the money to buy a home, you should be able to buy a home wherever you want. And if there's low-income housing, it should be open to people of all colors, not people of only one color. That's something that I want to see changed.
Okay, let me translate for those who don't speak English. Nous demandons qui ça c'est le monter qui ça le fait pour la communauté haïtienne. Il dit comme ça que l'État remet pour faire plus de job et pour tout le monde qui travaille pour toucher un petit corps plus que minimum wage là. Après ça, il parlait d'économie, il parlait d'immigration réforme. Il dit comme ça que l'été Columbia University, l'été Columbia University, était une loge groupe students qui étaient dans l'école là, là ils fini, ils pas connaître ses priorités parce qu'ils pas gain visa, ils pas gain green card, ils pas connaître ses priorités retourner dans la caille et nous connaît la caille pas gain job. So étudiants ça toujours venir côté là pour yo worry parce que ils pas connaître si y a pas jeune job ou bien si job y a jeune est-ce que y a sponsorisé pour être capable gain visa ou bien gagner papier légaux papier pour travail. Et puis troisièmement, il parlait de caille dans Ramapo, grand pile monde qui pas posséder caille ou bien qui pas louer caille, les gain projet pour te bâtir low income houses. Low income houses là c'est pour monde qui pas gain pile l'argent ou qui payer caille là suivant de comme fait. So now about the jobs, creating job is like nice and very easy to say, but when you think of the economy, the actual economy, so how do you think you can achieve such dream, that goal? How do you think?
Yeah, you know what you have to do. So much of the government tries to do things by just pushing it and making it happen, rather than setting the conditions by which the private sector can do it. Part of the problem that the private sector has is they're very uncertain about what's going to come, what the government's going to do next, what's going to happen in the economy next. We need to make things simpler for them, and we need to make things more efficient and let them do the hiring. And it's a matter of sitting down, working with people on both sides of the aisle to get those reforms in place where, you know, a small or mid-sized business isn't concerned that suddenly the way they have to provide health care changes tomorrow. And that is the difference between them making a profit or not making a profit. And because they're concerned about that, they're not hiring that extra person, or they're not giving those people that raise that they need. We need to make sure people are actually comfortable making a profit. And we also need to realize, you know, Rockland County and Westchester counties are some of the most highly taxed areas of the entire country. And part of that is the fact that the federal government and the state government are pushing expenses down to the local level. So as a congressman, you have to be cognizant, you have to be aware that if you're not making a decision of how to pay for something, you're shackling businesses. And when a business has to pay extremely high property taxes, that's less people that are hired again. So it's a matter of reforming the tax code, reforming the way we do business, reforming our tariffs overseas, and setting the conditions for them to get going again and get them started again. We can't keep trying to throw money at the problem. That's not the way to do it. The money's there in the economy. It's just sitting, not being used, and some of the corporate cash on hand right now is some of the highest in history because they're afraid to spend it because they don't know what's going to happen the day after they spend it. So we've got to give them that certainty so they can start hiring and people can get paid again.
Okay. Sincerely, I think you have a good program, and I think you are young. And what is the age of your opponent? Do you know?
I'm 29 and I think she's either 76 or 77. I forget
like 80,
which it is.
I have 80.
80, okay, there
so
you go.
she has been a congresswoman for like
26 years.
26 years, okay.
Yeah, she's been there for quite some time, and it's a matter of if you're comfortable with the current approach to things and the way things have been, then she's been a part of that for that long. I'm trying to bring a new, fresh approach, a change in the way things are done, so that we could focus on getting things done, not on blaming each other and on raising money for the next election and all that sort of stuff. Forget that. It's time that we pull together as Americans and say this is what's best for all of us. And you know, she's part of that system of partisan bickering that's gotten nothing done in the last nearly 26 years now.
Ok. Moi, je dis comme ça qui, comme nous connaissons Mrs. Lowe, qui est opposant avec les mêmes, qui l'a gagné, combien elle gagne comme congresswoman. Les dit congresswoman, ça gagne 26 ans depuis là. So, les mêmes, as a young man, ils pensaient qu'elle a venu pour le porter en réforme. So, on a suivi, nous allons poser plus de questions tout à l'heure comme ça. On a pris un break et on a retourné tout à l'heure. We will take a short break and we'll be back.
Yeah! Class it is, baby. Do you wanna have a good time tonight? Hands up, everybody! Do you wanna free your mind? Come on! Musique ça c'est pour tout le monde qui a pas mauvais signal dehors. That's right. Spécialement mesdames yo. Let them know. So y'all know what I'm talking about here. Let them know. Check it out. Nous n'a téléphone toute la journée. Des fois, les nal dans 1004 du matin, faut me chercher ou faut me déposer. Les nous praler l'école ou bien pral nan mol, nous fait ti beau, bon petit morceau. Malgré quelques amis qu'on j'en rive loin. Qui ça dit? On dit nous pas qu'on aime. Hey yo, that ain't right. Baby, it's pas normal. Ma chérie, pas normal. Pas mauvais signal. Pas mauvais signal. Pas mauvais signal. It's pas normal. Ma chérie, pas normal. Pas mauvais signal. Woy woy, si vous voulez la game, pour que vous kembe. Moi tellement aimé, on fait de l'eau saute plongée. If you don't love me, don't bother. I ain't trying to make a long story longer. Goué l'autre fille ou fait jalousie. C'est pendant l'aime les al plus loin. She says, woy, ou si nous pas encore aimer. Hey! Pas mauvais signal. Oh! Pas mauvais signal. C'est pas normal. C'est pas normal. Pas mauvais signal. Pas mauvais signal. Non, non, non. Pas mauvais signal. C'est pas normal. C'est pas normal. Yeah! Do you wanna have a good time tonight? Do you wanna free your mind? Baby, dans mon moment, ça, c'est soit on veut ou on veut pas. Pas sous bagage sérieux et moi pas de temps pour jouer sous bagage avec tout le monde. Allez vous faire sucrer dans un verre d'eau salée. Class it is, baby. As you college, let's go. Hey yo, quand on y est, c'est l'amteye. Quand on y est, c'est l'obleye. Check it out, say K-L-A-S-S. Woo, let's go. Yes, I. Let's go. Woy, chaque fan d'amis, j'ai ouvert les métaux. Chaque matin, l'aime lever, ouvre pour moi beau. Pourtant, l'aine dans la rue, tant qu'on malin sous peau. Aïe, aïe, chaque fan d'amis, j'ai ouvert les métaux. Les matins, lever, ou dit fuck moi bobo. Pourtant, l'aine dans la rue, tant qu'on malin sous peau. C'est hey, hey. Chérie, li pas normal. Non. Chaque fan d'amis, chez ouvre le daïdo. Les matins, lever, ouais, si j'aime bon bobo. Pourtant, l'aine dans la rime, tant qu'on malin sous peau, yeah. Aïe, aïe, chaque fan d'amis, chez ouvre le daïdo. Les matins, lever, ou dit fuck moi bobo. Pourtant, l'aine dans la rime, tant qu'on malin sous peau. C'est hey, hey. Baby, li pas normal. No. Compa Maquette. Pour le groupe. Changez ça. Yo ti que Calico fel, yo ti Junior Dorville fel, Jordani Pompano fel, et yo Juno yo fel, oui. Aïe, ou Remavel depuis 8 ans. Par l'accent milieu tout au courant, ou al dîner avec nos restaurants. Ou mettons à genoux, li gen temps pendant qu'on l'a tremblé, li essoufflé. C'est l'aile bien gardé, li réalisé. Qui ça là? C'est celui où t'as placé, boy. Sans enragé, li pas normal. Non, ça pas normal.
Yes, we are back with Mr. Day. Mr. Day, you know you are our special guest for today. Tell me a little bit, what are the differences between you and your opponent? I think your opponent is, for those of you who don't know, for the 17th district is Nita Lowe.
Nita Lowe. Yeah, she's been representing someone in Congress, depending on the district changes, for 26 years now. This is the first non-presidential year that this specific district, though, is voting for her. So last time she ran was 2012, and that was the first time that all of Rockland County was in the district. It used to be her area was Lower Westchester and then just the town of Clarkstown. That was for the last 10 years before that, when Rockland had her and Elliot Engel, and there was a few people in the northern part. Now it's Central Westchester and Northern Westchester and all of Rockland County. So it's a completely different area. And the thing is, you know, at its core, between me and her, it's a matter of who's really in touch with the needs of the electorate, who's going through the same things they're going through. You know, I released my tax returns way back in the spring. She's refused to even acknowledge that request. She's worth estimates, again, she hasn't released her tax returns, but estimates based on some reporting is somewhere around $40+ million. This is money she made well in office. She doesn't face the same challenges we face, or hasn't for years. I know what it's like to have to commute over the Tappan Zee Bridge and to commute down to the city. I know what the costs are. I know what it's like to balance a budget, to pay for a child, to put them through school, to put food on the table, to have to find a home. I even own a home in North Carolina that's got stuck in the housing crash in 2008. I know what it's like to have that happen to you. I know what it's like to have to find rentals in a market like this. It's a matter of who's going to be most affected. If you're not affected by the laws you're passing because you're so removed from the populace, you're not really an effective representative of the people. I think that's what the people need in this district particularly, but really throughout the country. They need representatives who are representatives of them, who go through the same things they go through every day, and not representatives on behalf of them. It's people who represent the people that they don't have anything in common with. That's a huge difference between the two of us. And it's just a matter of also overall approach to governance. You know, my opponent's approach is basically to sit there on the partisan line in the Democrat side and say, everyone on the other side's wrong, they're terrible, and it's either my way or the highway. And my approach is, I'm an American first and a Republican second. My goal is to get things done and a pragmatic approach to government. That's not something she's displayed. And fresh ideas and a new approach, putting off your own plans. She's released no specific plans for pretty much any issue of the day, waiting to weigh in on things like the Veterans Administration until when there was a scandal this spring with veterans dying waiting for health care. She refused to do anything except defend the administration until the very last moment when General Shinseki was about to resign. I immediately was calling for his resignation. I had already released an individual plan that I created to reform the VA before the scandal even broke. That's kind of what it boils down to. It's the old approach, the old partisan divide, the old way of doing things, and someone who's removed from the people she's representing, with someone who is, I'm trying to get things done, and I'm going through it too. And when I pass a law, I'm going to have to live with it, because I'm not the type of person who's got means beyond the point of not having to care what the laws are anymore. You know, that's a distinct difference. We need to make the people of this district are going to have to make the decision as to whether the old way of doing things is still working, and if they think it's working, or if they want to take a chance and move forward and put some fresh ideas in there and try to shake things up a bit and get new ideas down to DC and see if we can try to move the ball forward on these issues that we can't wait on any longer. We just can't wait to balance the budget. We just can't wait to fix our taxes and everything like that. It has to get done now. That's what I want to do.
Okay. So the reason, what the reason you think that Rockland County and Westchester are the highest community with the taxes? The tax is very, very, very high. So what is the reason, or what are the reasons?
There's a lot of reasons. In New York specifically, you know, we have a problem of, it's called unfunded mandates. So a higher level of government passes a law saying you need to do X, Y, or Z. And the lower level of government is forced to do it, but they're not given the money to do it. So then they have to raise their taxes in order to make that happen because of the specific populations we have. We have a relatively large population compared to other areas of the state, but not so dense that it's offset entirely by extremely high property values. These rates have gone up substantially so, and it's driving down our housing market in this area. So much of our economy is based on our housing market. If you drive up and down any street, you see houses that have been on the market for years now, and they just can't sell them because no one wants to move into a house that's already $350,000, $450,000, depending on where you're talking, and then your tax bill doubles your mortgage.
Yeah,
you know, it literally doubles your mortgage. $15,000, $20,000 tax bill on a regular, 1,600 square foot house, like a normal, middle class house. People don't have the money for that. They just can't afford it. And so people who have the home already, they're stuck with it, and they can't move out and downsize if they've already got their kids moved out to college or something like that. There's been no focus on reducing the burden on our local governments from the higher levels. That's something I want to change. We need to, especially if you're representing an area that already is highly taxed, you shouldn't be voting for any bills that push expenses down a level. You shouldn't, if you're going to, at the federal level, say, if you're going to do X, Y, or Z, you need to have these sort of jobs in your organization. You can't vote for that. You know that there's already too much expenses on people and on the government. And those taxes stifle our ability to get things done here. They make it impossible for businesses to do business and for people to move in, for young people to stay. It's such a huge problem. And fortunately, there's levels of government locally that are doing their best to deal with it. But a lot of it honestly comes from a lack of economic growth. And if you see that, the economy, the job pool, the people who are looking for work is at historic lows because people have just given up looking. And in this area, our economic growth has dropped substantially just in the last few years. We can't afford to be like that anymore. We have to totally revamp the way we're doing things and focus on it.
Okay. Following the country executive campaign, your father, so did you manage money and what did you do for him?
Yeah, well, I managed the entire campaign, so I set the budget, I managed volunteers, I did messaging, so I would send emails on behalf of the campaign. I helped write some of the plans that were now being put into place by him in office and we campaigned on. And the big thing was managing, making sure that you weren't overspending. And I had a budgetary experience from my time in the Army, and I had leadership experience there, and I applied that also with my economic training to just be able to manage that budget and know exactly what you have to spend and where, especially when you don't have an unlimited supply. My opponent has $1 million plus in her campaign account and is worth $40 million, and she gets money from corporations, from federal contractors, from Wall Street. I don't have that luxury this time, and we didn't have it last time. So it's a matter of being able to prioritize things and work with the grassroots, with the people, and work within a set budget and accomplish what you need to accomplish, making the decisions, making the tough decisions. And it was a great experience because I got to be introduced to so many people throughout the area and so many issues that we're all facing. And it really set me up to, by being exposed to that, I was more interested in this potential opportunity to be able to bring more change and more reform to this area at a higher level, because in the end, the county level only has so much power over people's lives, and they only have so much power to get things done. They're really subject to higher levels of government. We need to keep pushing that reform higher and higher and get it into where the problem starts, which is really DC. And that's what I'm trying to do.
Okay. Let's take a break, and when I come back.
C'est pas de souffrir ou faire souffrir. Depuis nous aimer, c'est donc Jésus-Christ m'a promené. Malgré moi dans tous les nécessaire, moi réaliser ma dictée, ma dictée.
Si mal au tribunal pour juge la modèle moi déjà condamné. Yo met bon condamné, c'est ta volonté. J'ai eu pas ton idée. moi c'est docteur. Et Jean-Paul l'a dit, doit te mettre sensi ou pas qu'à jeter. Malgré mon nom, douleur, réaliser ma dictée. Si ma loi tribunal pour juge la m'en quitte, moi déjà condamné. Oh oh oh, yeah. Yo met bon 30 années, c'est ta volontiers, c'est ta volontiers. J'ai pas qu'on l'idée, j'en nécessaire.
Pachou doit être ça éternel.
Où sont mon nécessaire? J'ai une bonne jambe qui dit, même si on peut constater, j'ai une bonne jambe qui dit,
Voyager où sous moi, connaissant où, je n'aime pas gain de mer.
voyager où sous moi, connaissant où, je n'aime pas qu'il de
Si
mer.
on t'a yo, tu fais moi mettre boulet.
Moi pas négocier.
Si on t'a yo, virus m'a contaminé. Yeah.
Sous prenant la femme calée avec. Moi pas qu'à quitter. Et puis moi avec aussi gaz collé.
Voyager où sous moi, connaissant où, je n'aime pas gain de mer.
Voyager où sous moi, connaissant où, je n'aime pas qu'il de mer. Si on t'a honte, fais moi mettre boulet. Moi pas négocier. Si on t'a honte, virus mettre contaminé. Hey.
Si ou pas là, non fais parler avec.
Moi pas qu'à quitter.
Et puis moi avec ces gaz collés.
Well, we are back with Mr. Day. Christopher Day is the son of Ed Day. As you know, he's running for Congress as a Republican.
Yeah.
And we're going to ask him about his family background. Can you tell us about your family background?
Sure. You know, I have a son. I was married when I was younger and got a divorce, but I have my son. We have joint custody of him. He's 5 years old. Chris Jr. We call him CJ. He lives down in Orangetown with me, and he goes to school down there. And he just started kindergarten in September, so he's very excited about that. And I just got married actually to my fiance Jennifer this past weekend.
Nice,
So
congratulations.
thank you. So I had to clear this whole thing with her because you know, when you're getting married in October of an election year, it's a pretty big lift. But
Yes.
it was a great day, best day of my life, and you know, she's a great stepmom, and she's been helping out so much with the campaign. We haven't gone on a honeymoon yet. We're not going until December.
In
Yeah,
December.
afterwards, exactly. We honeymooned in Pearl River, in Yorktown, and Harrison, and Nyack. This is the next weekend. And we have a golden retriever, Aiden, is our pet. And it's you know, I'm very happy with my family. I'm very proud to be a part of the Rockland County community. And you know, we go through, again, I'm going through the same things everyone else is going through. I'm just trying to make ends meet and make sure my son's happy and make sure, you know, we're able to. My wife's a small business owner. She's a makeup artist. So she's dealing with all the problems that all the business folks in this area are facing, small business owners.
Okay.
So, you know, it's and we just, we like going out and going to parks with CJ and playing out in the backyard with the dog and just the usual things that any regular folks in this area might do. It's a beautiful area, and I'm very glad I moved back here after my time in the Army.
Okay, tell us about your mother, because I heard about your father, your grandfather a lot, but your wife, your son, but I don't really know about your mother. Can you tell us a little bit about her?
My mom, Jean, she's a very strong lady. She's strong not in the sense that she's tough on the exterior, but her inner core is strong, and she raised us with a very strong set of morals, and that she carried forth. And there's no one with a better heart than she has, and she's been through a lot. With my father was a police officer for 20 some odd years, so she had to live with that. And I was in Iraq and Afghanistan. She had to deal with that while I was away. Now my brother's in the military, and he may be deploying soon to overseas. So she's dealt well with just so much grace and caring, and she's definitely an inspiration. Very glad that she's an active part of my son and my wife's life, because it's good to have people you love around you. So.
What did she say when you say that, Mommy? Who was the first one that you went to and told that I would like to run for congressman? Or how do you come up with that idea? Your father pushed you, or you just decide that you're going to run?
Well, what happened was I had managed the campaign for county executive, and right after that, another gentleman was interested in running for this seat, and he asked me to manage his campaign because we had just won in Rockland, and Rockland's a huge chunk of this district. So I looked at it and I said, sure, I'll do that. And I was working in an investment firm, still employed there in Manhattan. I was all set to go part-time there or to leave the firm and start a business, doing consulting, business and political consulting. And then he backed out because he had some personal stuff. He just wasn't able to do it. And folks who were supporting him said, Chris, you have the background and the ideas to make this work. Why don't you step forward and do it? So the first person I talked to is my then fiance, now wife. And asked her what she thought and whether it would be okay, and she said yes. And I talked to my employer, and they said I could take some time and do it. And I just, I obviously, I mentioned it to my father since he's been in politics, and he said if I think I can do it, then I should. It's worthy. And I looked at my son, and I said, who am I going to trust to make sure things are good for him? Because no matter what your philosophy about government is, there's no single entity that can have a more direct impact on your life or on the life of your children than the government. One policy change is the difference between a business being in business or out of business. It's the difference between him being able to pay for college and not being able to pay for college. And I knew I was in a position that I was put there for a reason to be able to say yes to this idea. And I'd rather step forward and shoulder the burden and take care of him and his generation than leave it up and hope someone else does. So I decided to go forward with it. That was in the end of February, early March. And we've just been working hard since then. My wife 98% of the time is wearing a Chris Day t-shirt. CJ wears his shirt, and he's always asking, well, what type of campaigning are we doing? Are we going to an event? Are we going to go door to door? Are we going to go to a grocery store? So it's great. It's a good, unique experience. He's being exposed to a lot of things that other kids don't get to do. So it's good.
Do you cook at home? Do you cook?
I do cook, actually. Yeah.
Do you clean too?
I clean when I have to. I'd rather cook. No, I've been told I'm a decent cook. I enjoy cooking, and whether it's barbecue or cooking. And I'm part Italian, so I have a lot of different Italian foods that I cook. My mom's all Italian, so she passed down from her, and it's fun to do.
What do you cook? Spaghetti?
I put like chicken parmesan or eggplant, or I would do like like fettuccine alfredo, spaghetti also, Oh, and then I like grilling steaks outside in the warm weather and barbecuing and all those sort of things. It's fun to do. It's relaxing, I think. As long as I don't have to clean up afterwards. If I cook, someone else cleans the dishes.
Okay, all right. So for those, we have a lot of people watching the show. Most of them we have Democrat and Republican watching us. For people who would like to, after watching you today, they say you are young and you are well educated and you can bring new ideas, you can help, and as a fresh idea, you will bring. If they want to cross party to change, what are the processes? So how to start?
Basically, the way you start is by thinking that. If you think, and you're a Democrat or just not a Republican, and you think, that some of the stuff you're hearing is something that appeals to you, then you just got to move on the ballot. That's all. You go into November 4th, and you vote by the person, not the party. And that's what we need to do generally as a country, is we need to realize that the parties are just groups of people in the end. And if the person on the ballot is someone you think is going to get something done, or you want to see representing you, that's how you should vote. There's no restrictions on a Democrat voting for a Republican or a Republican voting for a Democrat, for that matter. On November 4th, you can vote for whoever you think is the best person for the job.
Okay.
And that's what I would hope everyone would do if they hear what I've had to say and they like the idea of trying to get a new approach to things and turning our country around a bit and making sure that turnaround affects everyone from top to bottom in our society. Then I hope on November 4th they'll find my name, whatever line it might be on, and vote there.
Yeah. For the ballot, you have a Christopher Day or Chris Day?
It's Christopher Day.
Christopher Day.
Yeah.
Okay. So, pour les gens qui besoin voter, on dit même sur démocrate ou républicain, l'on va voter juste ça, ou pas besoin de garder parti, ou juste garder non, même sur démocrate, on doit voter pour Chris Day. Si on t'a gardé ou changer idée, ou t'as voulu voter pour lui, ou juste dans l'on voter ou checker sous non, et puis ça va pas de problème qu'aux démocrates qu'aux républicains. Do you have a last word to say? Do you have something important to say to the community?
Well, I just want to say that if anyone wants to learn more about me, you can go to my website, www.voteforday.com. That's VOTEFORDAY.com. And I'm going to be here communicating with you. I've been communicating throughout this campaign directly with the people of Westchester and Rockland counties, whether it's on social media, and you can visit me on Facebook at facebook.com/ChrisDayNY, and everything social media is ChrisDayNY. So Twitter, Instagram, it's all /ChrisDayNY. I've run Google Hangouts, which are a great interactive town hall type experience where you can ask questions on live on YouTube of me and we can talk through things. And that's my philosophy. Is I think that as a member of this community, as someone who's going through the same thing that all of you are going through, I would want my representative to be down in the trenches and listening to the concerns of the people. I've been doing it. In fact, some of my plans that I've released were inspired by things that folks in the community have said and proposed to me, and I want to continue to do that. So if you do me the honor this November 4th of giving me your vote, I promise that you will not regret it.
Chris Day, I would like to thank you, and you are young, and I wish you good luck.
Thank you so
much.
much.
And I hope to see you on top.
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Toute communauté a nous sorti garder interview qu'on a avec Chris Day. Il parlait de différents programmes de immigration reform qui intéressaient haïtiens, communauté haïtienne. Alors show nous fait, il pas seulement pour communauté haïtienne, parce que il y a plein de monde qui regarde nous dans YouTube et dans Facebook tout. Là me fait show, c'est ça que me fait de mots pour me parler et anglais et créole. So pour tout le monde qui t'a suivi nous nous merci et pas oublier si tu as des questions ou ka joindre moi dans Facebook Naomi Dieudonné et si toutefois vous voulez tout ka toujours écrire email moi c'est naomidieudonné@yahoo.com. If you have questions for Mr. Day, you can email me and I will forward the questions to him. I think he's young and he has a fresh idea, so I will not say one more word. So give him a push. So.
La vie c'est sacrifice, il m'a des fonds de travail. Et me connaît bon résultat, à tomber si je travaille. Pas décourager, non, pas blaguer. La vie c'est sacrifice, il m'a des fonds de travail. Et me connaît bon résultat, à tomber si je travaille. Bien joué.